The stars stretched across the vastness of space, shimmering like diamonds in a dark, infinite sea. A sleek human spaceship, the Peregrine, cut through the emptiness, its engines humming steadily as it journeyed farther from Earth. On board, the crew went about their tasks, routine checkups, monitoring systems, and preparing for the next phase of their mission. Captain James Holt leaned back in his chair in the command room, looking out at the starry expanse. A sense of calm had taken over him, though he knew the mission was far from over. They had been in deep space for months, traveling to an uncharted region of the galaxy. Their mission was simple: explore and gather data. But as with most things in deep space, nothing ever goes according to plan. Suddenly, a bright flash filled the ship's control room. Alarms blared across the Peregrine, and the entire ship shuddered violently. Report. Captain Holt barked, his voice steady but urgent. An unknown force field is distorting our navigation systems, Lieutenant Samira Lark, the ship's navigator, shouted over the noise. Her fingers danced across the control panel, trying to regain control. We're being pulled off course. Before anyone could react, the ship was engulfed in a powerful burst of energy. The crew was thrown from their seats as the Peregrine tumbled through the atmosphere of an unknown planet. The ship's descent was chaotic. The atmosphere was thick, the air crackling with static as the ship's hull groaned under pressure. The crew braced for impact, gripping anything they could. With a loud crash, the ship slammed into the surface of the planet, throwing debris everywhere. A few moments of silence followed. Then, Captain Holt's voice broke through the stillness. Is everyone all right?" he asked, his voice strained but calm. "All crew accounted for," Captain Lieutenant Lark responded, wiping the dust off her face. "We've crash-landed, but the ship's still intact mostly." Holt nodded. "Good. We need to get out of here and assess our surroundings. Everyone suit up and head to the airlock." The crew quickly gathered their gear and made their way out of the wreckage. As they stepped onto the alien planet's surface, the team was immediately struck by the beauty of the strange new world. The sky was a soft lavender hue with two suns hanging low on the horizon. Strange glowing plants dotted the landscape, their petals glowing gently in the light. It was both mesmerizing and alien. "We need to find shelter and figure out where we are," Captain Holt said. "And keep your eyes open for any signs of life." The crew scattered, each member scanning their surroundings for any signs of civilization or danger. As they explored, they found signs that the planet was not as empty as they had assumed. The plants seemed to have been cultivated in certain areas, and there were remnants of what appeared to be ancient structures in the distance. After walking for several hours, the crew found themselves standing at the edge of a dense forest. At first they thought the shadows moving within the trees were nothing more than animals or native creatures. But then they saw them figures moving gracefully through the forest, tall, lithe, and beautiful. "Humans," Samira whispered, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Are they ... real?" The figures stepped closer, revealing more of their features. The beings were unlike anything the crew had ever seen before. They had long, flowing hair, glowing skin, and eyes that shimmered like jewels. They were strikingly beautiful, with an elegance that seemed almost otherworldly. Their presence was magnetic, and for a moment the crew was frozen in awe. The beings stopped a few yards away. One of them, a tall woman with silver hair, stepped forward. Her eyes locked with Holt's, and the crew felt a sudden wave of unease. "We are the Nyari," the woman said, her voice melodious yet firm. "You are not the first to come to our world, but you are the first to survive." Captain Holt, ever the diplomat, stepped forward cautiously. "We didn't mean to land here. We're explorers, stranded. Our ship is damaged, and we need help." The Nyari woman observed him for a long moment, then nodded. "We can help you," she said. "But you may be able to help us as well." Holt frowned. "Help you? How?" The woman's eyes grew intense. "Our people are dying, Captain Holt. We have tried everything, but we cannot produce offspring anymore. For centuries, our species has slowly withered away. We need your people to save us." Holt blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. "What are you talking about?" "You are human," she said, her voice growing softer. "We have studied your race. Your biology is the key to saving us. Your genes hold the answer to our infertility problem." The crew exchanged confused glances. "Are you saying that we," Samira began, but Holt raised a hand to silence her. "How can we help you?" Holt asked, trying to process what was happening. The Nyari woman took a deep breath before continuing. "We need your help to repopulate. Only a human male can father children with us. We need your genetic material to restore our future." Holt felt his heart skip a beat. The proposition was bizarre, unimaginable, but it seemed genuine. The alien woman's desperate eyes met his, and for a moment, he could see the weight of the Nyari's extinction hanging heavily on her shoulders. "We beg you, Captain Holt," she said softly. "Our species is at the brink of extinction. You are our last hope." The crew stood in stunned silence, processing the request. This wasn't just a diplomatic mission anymore. The fate of an entire alien species rested on their shoulders. But Holt couldn't ignore the underlying discomfort that gnawed at him. The humans, including himself, had just crash-landed on an unknown planet, and now they were being asked for something unimaginable. What would this require? Holt finally asked. The Nyari woman smiled, though it was a sad smile. "Nothing complicated. We would need your cooperation, of course, and you would remain with us for a time. It is a matter of survival." Holt's mind raced. He knew the Nyari were desperate, and this was no ordinary request. But he also couldn't ignore the pull of their beauty and the strange sense of urgency that filled the air. These women were not just asking for help, they were begging for it. Before he could respond, there was a sudden noise from the forest, a rustling sound, a low growl. The crew turned, and the Nyari woman's eyes widened in fear. "They are here," she whispered urgently. "The Zephyrin." The air grew thick with tension. The Nyari woman's expression hardened. "We need to go now. The Zephyrin are the ones who brought you here. They will come for us all." Captain Holt and his crew exchanged a look. This was only the beginning of something far larger than they had anticipated. The crew quickly followed the Nyari as they led them deeper into the forest. Holt's mind was reeling. The crash, the encounter with these beautiful alien beings, the plea for help, everything was happening too fast. And now, this new threat, the Zephyrin, as the Nyari tribe hurried through the forest. The sound of footsteps behind them grew louder. The Peregrine's crew could feel the danger closing in. The Nyari, however, moved with a confidence that suggested they had faced threats like this before. They weren't just survivors, they were warriors. But for Holt, the question remained. Could they truly help the Nyari? And if they could, would they be willing to make the unimaginable sacrifice that would be required of them? The clearing was silent, except for the faint rustling of leaves as the wind blew through the alien trees. Captain Holt stood at the edge, his eyes fixed on the approaching figures in the distance. The Nyari women around him were tense, their eyes scanning the shadows for signs of movement. The humans, too, were on edge, unsure of what was about to happen. The leader of the Nyari, the tall woman with silver hair, stepped forward and whispered to Holt, "These are the Zephyrin. They have come for us. They always come." Captain Holt narrowed his eyes. The Zephyrin were a new threat and unknown force that had pulled their ship into this strange world. The Nyari seemed to fear them deeply, but Holt wasn't about to let fear take control. He had his crew to protect. "Can we fight them?" Lieutenant Lark asked, her voice calm but filled with uncertainty. She stood beside Holt, her rifle slung over her shoulder. She, like everyone else, was trying to make sense of the chaos unfolding around them. The Nyari woman's expression hardened, her hand resting on the hilt of a weapon she carried at her side. "We have fought them before, but the Zephyrin are more powerful than you might realize. They are not just invaders. They want to control us. They want to take everything." Holt turned to his crew, eyes meeting each of their gazes. They had no choice. "We fight," he said simply. "We defend ourselves and the Nyari." As the first Zephyrin soldier emerged from the shadows, the crew braced themselves for battle. The Zephyrin were tall, with angular features and cold, calculating eyes. They wore armor that shimmered with a dark, metallic hue, They carried weapons that seemed to hum with an eerie energy. There were only a few of them at first, but they were enough to send a chill through the air. The Niari, though smaller in number, were not intimidated. They moved swiftly, their bodies honed from years of living in a harsh world. And the humans quickly fell into formation alongside them. Together, they made an unexpected but formidable team. Holt gripped his sidearm, his heart pounding in his chest. He had fought in battles before, but nothing like this. The stakes were higher now, more personal. The fate of the Niari rested on their success. The battle was swift but brutal. The Zephron's technology was advanced, but the humans had their own strengths. They fought with the precision of military veterans, while the Niari warriors moved like shadows, using their agility and knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the enemy. Still, the Zephron were relentless. Their weapons seemed to slice through the air with deadly accuracy. Lieutenant Lark fired a round at one of the Zephron, hitting it in the chest. The creature stumbled, but did not fall. It raised its weapon, aiming directly at her. Before it could fire, a Niari woman lunged forward, her spear striking the Zephron soldier with deadly precision. The Zephron dropped, motionless. "That's how you do it," Lark muttered, her face tight with concentration. She moved quickly, keeping an eye on the other soldiers. Holt watched in awe as the Niari and humans fought side by side. They were different, yes, alien and human, but in this moment, they were united by a common cause. Holt found himself admiring the strength and resilience of these women, but he also knew that this was only the beginning. There would be more battles to fight. Each one would be harder than the last, as the Zephron forces retreated. Their soldiers disappearing back into the forest, Holt felt a brief sense of relief. They had won this round, but the victory was bittersweet. The Niari had lost members in the fight, and the humans had been forced to use all their training to stay alive. The silver-haired Niari woman, whose name was Vera, walked toward Holt. She looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and concern. "You have fought well." "Captain," she said, her voice calm, but laced with sorrow. "But this battle is just a small part of what is to come. The Zephron will not stop until they have what they want. We must prepare for the worst." Holt nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The Zephron weren't just invaders, they were conquerors. And the Niari, with their dwindling numbers, had little chance of standing against them alone. "What do we do now?" Holt asked, his voice steady. Vera looked at him, her expression hardening. "Now, we make an alliance. We need your help more than ever. We need your people, your men to help us survive. There is no other way." The words hung in the air between them, heavy and unspoken. Holt's stomach tightened. This was what he had feared, the true cost of helping the Niari. They had asked for a part of him, something that would change everything. The humans gathered that evening in a makeshift camp, their faces reflecting the fatigue of the day's battle. Captain Holt paced back and forth, trying to think through the situation. His crew was still recovering from the fight, and while they had survived, the Niari had taken heavy losses. Samar sat nearby, cleaning her weapon. "What do you think about Vera's offer?" she asked quietly. Holt stopped pacing and turned to face her. "I think it's the only choice we have. The Zephron won't stop until they have everything. If we don't help the Niari, they'll be wiped out, and so will we. But the way they're asking for our help..." Samira trailed off, unsure how to finish her sentence. Holt sat down beside her, his eyes distant. "I know. I've never been in a situation like this before. We're not just helping them survive. We're being asked to become part of their future." He looked at her. "It feels... strange." "It's not just strange, Captain. It's dangerous," Samira replied. "We don't even know who these people really are. They say they're trying to save their species, but what if there's more to it? What if they're using us for something else?" Holt exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. Samira was right. They didn't know the full story. The Niari had made their desperate plea, but it could be a trap. But then again, if they didn't help, the Zephron would destroy them all. It was a gamble, one that Holt didn't know if he was ready to take. "I'm not sure what the right answer is," Holt said quietly. "But we don't have many options. I need to speak to Vera again. We need to know everything. Later that night, Holt met with Vera in the heart of the Nyari village. The stars above them seemed to shine even brighter than before, as if the universe itself was watching their every move. "You asked for our help," Holt began, his voice steady, "but you haven't told us everything. What exactly is it that you need from us?" Vera met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "We need your men, Captain. We need their genetic material. Only through bonding with humans can we hope to repopulate our species. It's not something we wanted, but it's something we must do. You and your people may be our last hope."
Out.
Felt a tightness in his chest. He knew what she was asking, but hearing the words out loud made it real. The weight of their situation pressed down on him. The fate of the Nyarian, potentially the humans, lay in his hands. "I understand," Holt said after a long pause. "But this is more than just a genetic need. There's something deeper here. I need to know what else you're not telling me." Vera hesitated. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. "There is more," she admitted softly. "But it is not something I can explain in just a few words. If you agree to stay and help us, you will understand everything. But you must trust us." Holt stood silently, looking at the stars above. He had no more time to make a decision. The Zephyron were coming for them again, and he couldn't afford to be indecisive. "We'll stay," he said firmly. "But know this. If we do this, we do it together. No more secrets." Vera nodded, a sense of relief washing over her. "Thank you, Captain Holt. Together, we may yet survive." The tremors in the ground grew stronger, shaking the camp as if the planet itself was alive and angry. Captain Holt's heart raced as he glanced at the horizon. The Zephyron were coming this time. They were prepared. Vera stood beside him, her face a mask of calm. But her eyes betrayed the fear she had fought to hide. "They are near. We must be ready." Holt nodded. He had never seen an enemy like the Zephyron, calculating, ruthless, and more powerful than anything they had encountered. The previous battle had been a small skirmish compared to what was coming. This time the fate of the Nyari, the humans, and this entire planet hung in the balance. "We need to gather the crew," Holt said, his voice low. "We'll need everything we've got to fight back." Samira and the other members of the crew quickly gathered around, their faces grim. They had all seen the destruction the Zephyron were capable of, and now it was time to face them again. But this time, it wasn't just the human survival at stake. It was the survival of an entire alien race. "We've fought before," Samira said, her tone determined. "But this time, we fight for something bigger." Holt looked at her and nodded. "That's right. We fight for all of us." The preparations were quick, but thorough. The humans and the Nyari worked together, setting up defensive positions, fortifying the camp, and gathering weapons. The Nyari women had proven themselves fierce warriors. Now they were training the humans in their own unique combat techniques. They moved as one, united by a shared goal: to stop the Zephyron and protect their future. Vera moved between the groups, speaking to her people in soft, urgent tones, her expression unwavering. She knew what was at stake. The Nyari had been fighting for centuries, but they were now at the brink of extinction. The arrival of the humans had been their last hope, and if they failed now, there would be no future for her people. "We will not give up," Vera said firmly, her eyes meeting Holt's. "We will fight, even if it means our end." Holt placed a hand on her shoulder, a silent promise of support. "We won't let that happen." The Zephyron arrived just after sunset. Their dark ships hovered ominously in the sky, blocking out the twin suns. Their soldiers descended in squads, their armor gleaming in the eerie light. There were more of them this time, much more. The camp was surrounded, and the situation seemed hopeless. Holt felt a cold wave of dread wash over him, but he pushed it aside. There was no turning back now. "We fight together," he said, turning to face his crew and the Nyari warriors. "We give everything we've got. We don't stop until they're gone." The battle began. The air was thick with the sound of gunfire, the crackle of energy blasts, and the screams of the fallen. The humans and Nyari fought side by side, a seamless alliance of strength and determination. The Zephyron were formidable, their advanced technology making them nearly unstoppable. But the humans and Nyari were not easily intimidated. They fought with desperation, with courage. And with the knowledge that this was their last chance, Holt found himself at the front, leading his crew into the fray. His gunfire was steady, his movements quick as he aimed at the Zephyrin soldiers. The Nyari moved like shadows, their agility and speed making them nearly impossible to catch. They darted through the chaos, striking down the Zephyrin with precision. Samira and the others fought fiercely, but even their best efforts couldn't stop the tide of Zephyrin soldiers. For every Zephyron that fell, it seemed to more took their place. Holt knew they couldn't hold out much longer. The Zephyron were relentless, and their numbers were overwhelming. Vera fought beside him, her spear flashing in the light as she took down enemy after enemy. She was a warrior to her core, her strength unmatched by any of the humans. But even she seemed to be growing tired. Holt could see the strain in her eyes, the exhaustion in her movements. The battle had already lasted hours, and they were all starting to feel the effects. We can't keep this up much longer. Samira shouted over the noise, her voice tight with fear. We need a plan. Holt's mind raced. He had never felt so helpless in his life. They were losing. The Zephyron were winning, and if they didn't do something fast, it would all be over. Then, in the midst of the chaos, he remembered something. The Zephyron hadn't just come for the Nyari. They had come for something else. Holt had heard rumors from Vera. The Zephyrin were after something buried deep within the planet, something they believed would give them ultimate power. But the Nyari had kept it hidden for centuries. Holt turned to Vera, grabbing her arm. The Zephyron, they're not just here to conquer. They're after something on this planet, aren't they? Vera's face grew pale, her eyes wide with realization. You don't understand? The thing they want, it's not just a weapon. It's part of our species. It's our last hope. Holt's mind raced. The Zephyron weren't just trying to take over. They were after the one thing that could ensure the Nyari's survival. Holt's heart pounded as he realized the truth. The Zephyron had known about the Nyari's infertility, and they believed that the ancient artifact hidden on the planet would be the key to controlling the species and using it for their own purposes. They're after the artifact. Holt muttered. If we don't stop them, they'll use it to control your people forever. Era's face hardened. We must stop them. At all costs. Holt nodded. We'll fight them, but we need to get to the artifact first. If we can destroy it, the Zephyron lose. The battle had reached its peak when Holt and Vera made a daring decision. They would infiltrate the Zephyron's main ship and destroy the artifact before the Zephyron could use it. Holt knew it was risky, but it was the only way to stop them, with Samira and the rest of the crew providing cover. Holt and Vera made their way toward the Zephyrin ship. It was a perilous journey, filled with enemy soldiers and dangerous obstacles, but their determination kept them moving forward as they approached the ship. Holt could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. This was at the final stand. If they failed, everything would be lost. They reached the artifact chamber, hidden deep within the Zephyrin ship. The room was filled with a strange, pulsating energy, and at the center, resting on a pedestal, was the artifact. It glowed with an eerie light, its power radiating throughout the chamber. Vera stepped forward, her face a mixture of fear and determination. This is it. We destroy this, and the Zephyrin lose. Holt nodded, pulling out a small explosive device. Let's do it. They placed the device on the pedestal and ran for cover. As the countdown began, Holt felt his heart pounding in his chest. If this worked, they could end the Zephyron threat once and for all. The explosion rocked the ship, sending a shockwave through the chamber. The artifact shattered into thousands of pieces, its power extinguished. The Zephyron's control over the Nyari was broken. As the ship began to crumble, Holt and Vera rushed back to the surface. The Zephyron forces were in disarray, and without the artifact, they were powerless. The humans and Nyari fought back with renewed strength, and soon, the Zephyron were in full retreat. Holt stood amidst the wreckage, his heart still racing. They had done it. The Nyari were free. Vera stood beside him, her eyes filled with gratitude. We owe you everything, Captain. Holt shook his head. We did this together. The war was over. The Zephyrin had been driven off, and the planet was safe. The humans had earned the Nyari's trust, and in turn, the Nyari had offered their alliance. As the two species began to rebuild, there was a new sense of hope in the air. The Nyari would survive, and the humans had proven that they were more than just explorers. They were allies, capable of great sacrifice and strength, as the stars above them twinkled in the night sky. Captain Holt looked at Vera, his heart filled with both relief and a sense of responsibility. Their bond, forged in the fires of battle, had saved two worlds, and it would be the foundation of a new future.